Hello and welcome to another blended tutorial. Today I'll be showing you some geometry nodes and hopefully constructing really interesting, structures using very basic shapes. So I'm going to quickly create some agreeable shapes and set up my outliner to make things a bit easier, and I'll try and explain the reasons why I'm doing certain things. So right off the bat, I'm just going to delete the camera and the light. We're going to use our default cube as, I guess, our base agreeable shape. So I'm just going to scale this down, maybe go in and let's duplicate this a couple of times. And now we're just going to hide all of this. And the reason for that is I just want everything to be kind of consistent with a square shape. And that's just an aesthetic reason. So I'm going to tab into this, and you know what? I think this is fine, as is, just as a base shape. Always good thing to do is apply all transformations, because I've edited it that way, and this one. I guess let's add in a couple of cuts, and let's just extrude this to kind of look like that. And simple is fine. Now, you could use any shapes you have. I'm just running through this because the tutorial is not really about creating agreeable shapes. You could use any kind of shapes you want, and it'll all work out. Now, I've had this. Oh, we can just do this like that, and then maybe it'll be kind of cool if we had something like this. That's kind of cool. Okay. And then this one, let's say like that. Whoop, like this, and kind of, yeah, like that. Let's have it a bit higher. That's good. And scroll that down. Maybe a little window. That's cool. Excuse me. And let's go with this one here. Let's see what we can do. Anything interesting here. That. And I'm not really actually thinking about like how these shapes should be. I'm just randomizing as I go. Not really thinking too much about the shapes because, again, it's just a tutorial here. And sometimes, you know, you get really funky shapes when you're just kind of blazing through this stuff that you don't normally think about. That's kind of cool. And there. Okay. So we have our agreeable shapes, and let's just make sure that excuse me, all of these are here. I'll have a bit of allergies, excuse me. So alright, and we're going to move all of this into our agreeable collection. Yep, that's how you spell it. Okay. So we don't need to see that anymore. Another thing I'm going to add is kind of like a placeholder for our geometry nodes. And this is where we can change all our geometry nodes. So let's just create, we can even create a vertex. It's kind of hard to see a vertex, so let's just use a plane for now. And let's just call this geometry placeholder. Holder. Alright. And let's do that with geo. And we can clean it up a bit here. Let's do this as red, why not? And let's have this as orange. Alright, so we're going to build all of our geometry nodes on this. And we can just move this off to the side here. Doesn't really matter. And now we're going to create a base shape. Basically, the shape that we'll manipulate where the agreeables will conform to. And we can just add a cube. It's fine. And let's just rename this base shape. I know I'm going pretty fast here, but you can like rename stuff in the outliner as well. I'm using 2.7x hotkeys because I got really comfortable with them. 2.8, I'm sure, I think you can hit F2 and you can rename things. Okay, so we're going to put this into another collection. New collection, and let's call this base shape. It's always nice to keep things organized. It's just easier to see where things are going. Alright, so we have all of that. Now the fun bit. So we're going to go over, hover over our crosshairs, drag this down, and if we go to the top left, we'll see Geometry Node Editor. So we'll click on that, and we see nothing. Well, the reason for that is we have to click on this, and we're going to do New. geometry nodes. Oh, we could name this Greeble generator. All right. So right off the bat, it can be daunting if you need to do this, but I like to think of this as my layers for Photoshop. So like layer 1 all the way down to the result, or if you're more comfortable with the mind map, it's kind of like the journey of your thinking process all the way to the end here. So let's look at what's happening here. So currently we have geometry to geometry, or from now on I'm just going to say geo because I'm going to mess up that. So geo to geo, group input to output, and that's what we have here. So if I disconnect that, oh, it's gone. But we really don't want our greebles to be generated on this. We want it to be generated on this. And so we have to get the location of this cube. And how we can get that is using object information. So Shift A, and sometimes it's hard for me to see where these are. I just kind of know what I want. So I'll just search for object info. And we'll have this handy thing. Now if we plug this into here, nothing's going to happen. But if we plug this into here, it's now copying this. We do relative, and it'll be relative to this. So basically we're cloning this over using this geometry information. Now if I put this over here, you can see it's just back to what we had originally, which is the placeholder. Excuse me. We have to put this back here. Boop. The original. Now this is relative to the relative space here. So if I move the cube, you can see it's kind of like clipping, and that's because it's following wherever that space is, and that's what we want. So we'll go back to this. And now if we bring that down here, just to see everything, I'm just going to put this up here for different purposes. Okay, so let's figure out how to deconstruct this now. We want to place tons and tons of basically little points where the greeble objects can spawn. So we need something called a point instance. We're going to add in a point instance over here. And it's now looking for the object. Where are we going to object this? So we're going to do collection, and we're going to do greeble. So currently, it's using what it can of the geometry to place it here. And it's using the vertexes. Now, that's cool for certain purposes, but not really what we're looking for. But this is needed, this points instance. We're now spawning the greeble on the points provided, which is the geometry. So let's see if I go to the base shape and I'll add a cut here. You can see now it's conforming to the vertex because that's using it as a point. So if I delete that, it's going back to the 4 vertexes. Click back on this. So the reason why I also just like clicking on this thing here because it's invisible right now. So now we need to figure out how can we randomize these points. Well, there's something called a point distribute. So we're going to look at that, point distribute. We click on that, and it'll have to be before this. And the reason for that is because we want the points to be scattered and then create these instances of the greebles on the points. So if I disconnect this, just as a demonstration purpose, geometry at places here, you can see these are representations of where the objects are going to spawn. And we can also increase the density until it's like really full. I really wouldn't recommend this too much if your computer can't handle this, but let's just do 1 for now. There are a couple of different instances here, random, and this poisson, I don't know how to say that, disk, which basically means it won't try to clump objects together, so you can set a minimum and maximum distance. But as for like concepting purposes, I really don't mind if things are intersecting, so I'll just hit random. Now if I place this over here into geometry, now you can see it is all here. Look at that, that's pretty cool. We got some like cool structures happening. Now you can see like some really funky things happening of things clipping on top of each other. That's completely fine. We'll need to add other attributes, which means we have to randomize the scale, location, rotation. So if we go to attribute, randomize, click on this here, nothing happens. And the reason for that is we need an attribute. So we click on float, go to vector. And the reason for vector is we want to set a minimum and maximum, and it's going to be also in vector space, as well as just the way scales are. So first off, we want to randomize the scale, and if we click on this, we're privy to all these amazing things here. I don't know if that's the right way to say that. So scale is not here. You just type scale, and now we have scale being randomized. And you can set the minimum, the maximum, 0, 0, 0. You can change the seed of this. You can also change the seed of weight this is, and you get really cool little formations already. Now if I do this, you kind of see it's super cool just to see how this is working out. And we can add a HDR world. We could add something neat like this, just to get an idea of what's happening with the forums. Okay. Now we change the seed, excuse me, the seed, and that's pretty cool. Okay, so what else can we do with this now? Well, we can also start saying to align things differently. So we could go here and align rotation to vector, and the reason I'm bringing this up is let's say if you can see these are all pointing towards the normal. What happens if you want them to all point to a certain direction? This will be your friend. So you pop this here and nothing happens. The reason for that is it's already pointing towards the X, Y, and Z or Z axis. You can see we're changing things. You can also change the factor of it, so you can like really fine tune it this way. That's really cool. Alright, what else can we change here? Well, it looks like all the pieces are on top of each other, which is kind of undesirable. We want all the little pieces from the Greeble thing here to be scattered around. And the reason for that is because we're ticking whole collection. So with a click of this, now it's going to start placing randomized parts everywhere, which is more desirable to what we wanted. If I increase the density, you can see scale is changing. We're getting some really cool shapes now. And we just had rather basic shapes. This is super cool. See, look, we already have different structures. Alright. Now, where can we go from here? Well, we can start manipulating the base shape and start conforming it to something really cool or whatever you have in mind. So let's re-click on the base shape. You can see it's just a square. Click on this square. It's really hard to see. I think even in local view, if we click the slash, we can go into local view, local, and we can start manipulating this base shape to, let's say, something more sci-fi or fantasy or spaceship. I think I initially said a spaceship, so excuse my fast demonstration spaceship skills. Let's figure out a shape here. So we can do this. I really like the slanted, blocky look. That's something that I enjoy. I think as a kid, I used to play like Apache simulators or something like that, and it was super cool flying something blocky. So we're gonna create something fast. This is gonna be ugly, but ugly can be beautiful sometimes when it comes to vehicles. I actually like a lot of what's considered to be ugly vehicles. They have a lot of characters. So let's see here. I don't want to think too much about like shapes right now, because I don't want this video to get too long. So we're just gonna do that. If we don't really want to create like windows and insets, because it's gonna start distributing the points in here, so this is just gonna be the contour of the shape. And you don't want to really put a tail here because it's going to add like blockiness to it. One cool thing you can end up doing is like creating spaces like this to see what it's going to try and do. So let's say if I add like this, oh, and maybe add something like that. And let's get out of local view. You kind of see it's adding. It's kind of like creating these like little skeletal networks. I'm hoping for them to like create little blocks like that. And there it is. I mean, this is super fun and cool stuff, and I think it's a cool way to start exploring. And I think, where's my geometry nodes? It's hidden somewhere. Oh, there it is. So we have scale, and we have all this. We can like, again, if you don't like the shape of this, we can like play around with this. And let's go back to this. Maybe we could find something kind of cool here. Let's add like a neat madcap. You see the shapes a bit more. This is kind of neat. I've made a couple of madcaps here, and I always recommend people to try it out. You get really stylized and unique stuff. I think what's a good one to see? These are kind of neat. Let's see here. Oh yeah, we can add a bit of shadow just to see. There we go. Okay. Let's hide this stuff here, and that's so cool looking already, hey? Okay, let's see this one. This has some nice form. Okay. So now we can like play around with the scenes. You get different iterations of this. Oh man, like you can tell like these are tiny windows. The cool thing is it derives some materials as well. So let's say if you put like on the windows, and if you start randomizing a material, it's going to start like randomizing it everywhere. I mean, I don't know how long I've been recording this. 16 minutes, 17 minutes. I'll quickly do a shader here. So let's hide this because we want to be surprised. And let's open up our greebles, our little greebles, and then let's click on one. It's on the material, and we have geometry nodes here, so I'll have to like go and create a new window. So click on the top corner and drag it out. And if we go to the shader editor, this is our first one. So pretty much everything's going to be node based here, and it'll take a while to get comfortable, but once you understand how things kind of work, you can kind of see it's like universal. Some of the languages, so object info is similar to object info over here. And so this is just basically saying each instance of the object created. And I kind of want a little bit of randomization. So I'm going to use random, and I'm going to feed it into a color ramp. So let's put that here, put random here, and let's put color here. And you can see it's like going to grayscale. Some things have changed slightly. That's fine. And I'm just going to pick some random colors. Let's go one. Sure, these are good. We're going to distribute them evenly because that looks aesthetic in my eyes. We're going to create something called a constant. So it's going to like ramp them. No, what's a word here? Like, yeah, no gradation on them. So let's just pick some colors here. And sometimes, whoops, you can drag these colors. Oh, something. Here, I'll show you a little trick I like to do. So drag that here, click here, drag this here, and then now I can like change it slightly. And the reason why I like, whoops, that's not what I wanted. The reason why I like doing it this way is that I can kind of think of complementaries too. Like, okay, here, actually I can just use this here, and let's say like that kind of looks a bit better. And then maybe that kind of looks cool. And let's go for a little bit more wild card. Maybe that's not wild. Yeah, nah, I don't like that. Let's go with, there we go. Let's go with that. Okay. So you can see everything's being like randomized. And you can play around with this, you know, all this stuff here, but this is just something I wanted to show with the randomization. There is a couple of windows, so let's see if we can find those. Find those windows. Let's see. Oh, this one here. Okay, so we'll click on this. New window. And we can just create an emission. And let's put the emission here. And actually, I'm going to steal this guy and place this guy here. Beep. 5. Click in here and assign the windows here. And let's take a quick look. There we go. Let's see if there's any other windows. Is this a window? Nope. No window? Yes, you are. Alright, so windows assigned. I don't think I have any other windows, but we can do so. Oh, yeah, here. Okay. New windows assigned. Okay. So now hide all this, and let's take a look at our a bit of mess here. And let's put our base shape here. I kind of like keeping the base shape. The reason for that is, like, if I don't have it, it'll still conform to the shape, but as you can see there, it's a little bit of empty transparency. Now that's cool if you just want like an empty hull or husk, or if this is more in line with whatever thing you're creating. But I like having a little base shape here just to add something cool. And you can always like add a separate material to this as well, just to, you know, kind of say like, oh yeah, all the platings here. And we can make this a bit more aesthetic if I add HDR map. Let's see. Or I can, yeah, no. I just turn this guy on. And instant concept art. Like this. Have it in the sky. Look at that. Beauty. Alright, let's. And again, you can play around with like the distribution. You can like fill this guy up. You could, you know, change the seed. So like the scale. So everything's going to still be the same here. As you can see, it's just randomizing how the scale is. You can align to vector. So, oh yeah, sorry. Currently, this is at 0, but if you can see what's happening here, so it's going to face everything up. Y and X. Again, this is if you have a very specific thing in mind. I kind of like doing stuff like this every now and then. And you can always like control how much you can do with the factor. This is just here as an option to show you. You can have something like flaring out. And of course, once this is kind of done, you can like move your base shape around. You can, I think, apply the modifier, which will then generate these as meshes. You could, what else could you do? You could, one of the ID works. I was having trouble with it. Let's see. ID. There you go. So this will randomize. If you like all the shapes, since we have the pieces in a modular shape, you kind of see it's going through them, but it's keeping the configuration. So this is really handy if you just want to see what other iterations you can get. If like, let's say there's like a lot of things clumping up, so like I'm just gonna make a funny call and you're like, oh, I really don't like all this blue here. You can just randomize the seed here, and you can try and break it up. Like, oh, that's better. Oh yes, these analogous colors are pleasing to my eye, but that the split complementary. Yes, this is fantastic. Yep, and then you have your little ship here. Now, there's other things you can do. I'll quickly show you this. It's 25 minutes. Let's go. We're having some fun here. So we go object info, and you can use an empty object to change the scale, so you don't have to always come in here. You can like, it becomes more of a free workflow and like more fluid, rather than always opening this up. It's kind of like setting yourself up to show cool things faster for your brain. So we'll go to empty. And we'll, you can choose anything that's cool. Let's just use a cube. And let's just select this cube. And let's say, let's do the scale. So we click on this. And now we can control the scale this way. That's pretty cool. So that's like a fun way to do that. And that's controlling the maximum. We can have two cubes. So if I do 2 cubes, and it's always good to kind of like label these so you know which one's which. So let's just say This one is max scale, and this is min scale. And you could go and view them here. And where is it? Is it this one? No. Visibility. Oh, viewport. There we go. Name. And name. And you keep these in front. Okay. So now you see max scale, boop, min scale, scale, and that's how you control your randomization here. And you can also do anything with these things. So we can also control like the, what's this? The ID could be derived from this. You can control the rotation as well. So you can have randomized rotations. Let's see. Rotations here, which is kind of looking like Lego bricks a little bit. But you can like control it this way. If you just want an absolute junkard of a ship, this doesn't make any sense at all, you can have that as well. Unless just everything zeroed out. And there we go. You don't want everything zeroed out because it's still deriving it. Alright, so there you go. Randomized junkyard spaceship thing. And again, you can always like go in here, and the cool thing is like seeing this in real time. So like I can hide the overlays and just like, I kind of remember where the cube shape is, so you can kind of like drag it out like this. Ooh, that's super cool. You click on a part here and like drag it down like this, drag it down like this. You can see bits are building up this way. Drag it down this way. And again, like the colors can be changed completely. This was just a super basic shader I made. With the base shape, I believe we can add modifiers. I think so. So let's see if we mirror it. Yes, we can. So you can have like really, you know, you can start creating super complex ships this way. And yeah, I think it's just like emphasis on fun now, because you know that's what I'm doing mostly. It's like, okay, this looks. There we go. Copyright. Look at that. Menacing in the air. Alright, thank you. Happy blending.